Mobility will not fix your injury or decrease pain permanently, not by itself anyways, and here's why. Mobility will help your body to expand its range, but it does not teach your body to have control in that range. It is like an agent who gets a fighter a shot in the ring, but never trained him for what he is going to face in there. Access without preparation is not protection, it's dangerous exposure. And real life will not warn you before it tests your strength in the end range. Like when you step in a pothole and twist your ankle, or you're carrying something big and heavy, rotating, trying to get through a doorway, and you end up tweaking your back. Or maybe you go up for a rebound and you land with your knee over your toe. If you can reach those ranges, but you have no strength there, you are not protected. You're in a vulnerable position. This is where injuries happen. And this video will help you fix that. Hi, my name is Seth. And after a dozen car accidents, my back felt like concrete. It was so tight and inflexible. I saw countless doctors and specialists, and they had no answers on how I could recover, how I could resume my activities or get back in the gym. A former bodybuilder could not even adjust my back and manipulate my spine. It was so tight. However, I just thought to myself, if I could get it to loosen up, I would feel better. I would have decreased pain and I would be able to recover again. However, after getting it to loosen up over years and years of work, it was not better. My pain was even worse. And I would re-injure myself just trying to put a child in a car seat or bending over and bumping my head on the way up. And after years of studying, testing, and backsliding, I eventually found out why. And the reason my back was so stiff to begin with was, one, my nervous system was guarding it so it did not injure itself. And after I was able to expand my range, it did not have control and strength in the end ranges, which would cause me to get further injured. In this video, I'm going to show you the difference between having extended range and having strength inside that range. And I'm also going to give you two types of training so that this will prevent you from being inside that injury cycle like I was. Here's what most people misunderstand. Mobility grants you access to range, but it does not give you control or ownership in that range. So without strength, you are now in a danger zone. Here's how it actually works. When your body will not access a certain range because you are tight, your body is firing your muscle in order to protect you from going into that range because it realizes that you are not strong there. Therefore, it limits your range. However, when you bypass that by increasing your mobility, but you neglect actually building strength there, now you just opened yourself up to a vulnerable state and you are open to injury in that state. In real life, you are reaching, you're twisting, you're rotating, bending over in awkward positions, and you're moving in dynamic ways with momentum majority of the time. But even when you think about the last time you got injured, were you moving slowly and controlledly? Probably not. And when you don't have strength in your end range and you're not controlled there, but you have the ability to access it with having enhanced mobility, it is like driving down the highway with no brakes, nothing to stop you from actually running into something and breaking something. Most people, when they increase their mobility, they do passive stretching. What does this mean? Is that they relax into the stretch. They relax so that their muscles will stop contracting, allowing them to access greater range. The problem with this is that doing this teaches your muscles to relax when you're in that range. And what happens when you relax? Well, now you have nothing protecting you, just like going down the highway with no brakes. Passive stretching is not necessarily bad, but when you pair it with nothing else, it can run you into some problems. That's why instead of doing passive stretching, I have replaced it with a different phase, which also increases your mobility, but also has the solution as well. I call this phase range expansion, and you can do it 3 different ways. The purpose is to teach your body to have control, strength, and fire the muscles to protect you in that end range. The first method is the contract release method, where you contract the muscle that you're stretching for a short period of time, 5 to 10 seconds, and then you release it and stretch further. And then you contract it once again and then release it. And you do this for 2 minutes. This will not only extend your range, increasing your mobility, but it will also teach your body to fire the muscle inside that range, not just being completely relaxed. The second way is that you contract the opposing muscle while you are stretching the other. So if you're doing a hamstring stretch, then you are contracting your quads while you're performing the stretch. And you can do this 2 ways. You can either stretch the hamstrings and contract the quads as you are stretching further, or you can stretch the hamstrings and contract the quads in a pulse-like manner, on, off, on, off. And doing so will teach the opposing muscle to fire while you are stretching the other. This teaches control in the end range. The third method is to load the stretch while performing reps. An example exercise for this is the Jefferson curl. When you load this exercise, every single rep, you expand your range, deepening the stretch. However, when you come out of the stretch, you now have resistance, building strength throughout the entire range of the exercise. So you are hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. You are expanding your range, but you're also building strength. Keep in mind, when you're doing these methods, it has real cost on the nervous system. So the way you do it should be programmed and timed effectively. So if you are expanding the range in your back, for example, you do not want to do this before you are doing other strength work in your workout. You would do this either at the end of your work and lower the intensity and the volume, or you could do it the same exact day in a whole nother session. However, if you do some heavy deadlifting per se, you would not want to do this the next day for your back, that is, because then your nervous system already is taxed from the day before from your strength session. So keep that in mind when you're programming. So now that you understand range expansion, you can come to understand the second phase in the training, and that's called Ironclad Training. And I named it this specifically because it helps you build an iron body that is bulletproof and resilient to injuries. You can think of range expansion like pouring the concrete, and Ironclad Training setting the concrete, making it hard and permanent. This can be done every single day. Since it is low intensity, it is sustainable. It should be done at RPE 6 or 7. The goal here is not brute strength, but to rather strengthen every single corner that has not yet been hit by your other exercises. And although it accompanies many different exercises within Ironclad Training, the goal is simple, is pattern correction and strengthening the entire range, especially since you just increased your range through the range expansion phase. Some call these accessory lifts. However, if you do not have the range expansion before this, then it's really limiting the results that you're going to get from it. So a Jefferson curl, for example, that was included in the other phase, it could also be part of this phase. However, since it is low intensity, you're probably not expanding the range so significantly. Also, you can do some neck exercises, which would also be included in this, or some rotator cuff work, working your lower traps and isolating muscles that are not normally targeted or activated as well while you're doing compound lifts. And you can increase your strength of your tendons and ligaments. So you can see the sky is the limit here. And it really just comes down to how much imagination you can have in programming this. But if you really take time to think about this strategically and plan it out and program it effectively, you're going to reap the rewards, because this is where you truly bulletproof your body and make yourself resilient to injuries. That means that next time something unexpected comes up, you're not going to get injured and have to take off months of training. That means that you're going to progress even faster because you're not going to be backsliding from getting injured. The one who builds strength in their end ranges, they don't just have increased mobility. They don't just move better, although they do, but they're structurally stronger and harder to break, harder to get injured. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So to build an unbreakable body of iron, you strengthen the weakest link one link at a time. And if you want to understand where your specific weak links are specific to you, I built something to help you. It's called the Iron Body Assessment. It is a free assessment that walks you through and identifies your weak links so that you can strengthen them to build a more resilient body.